Liftoff of the Delta rocket carrying GLAST.
Hey everyone, welcome to Discovery Festival 2021. We've got a great session for you this afternoon that's going to be brought to you by the UNM School of Engineering. They're going to talk a little bit of an overview of the School of Engineering, and then they're going to have a little chat about what it means to be an environmental engineer and why that's important. So we're really looking forward to having them have that discussion with us this afternoon. If you have any questions, put them in the chat and we'll ask them live. So here we go. Toby, you want to take it off?
Absolutely. Thank you for having us today. Hi, guys. My name is Toby DeFoya. I am the recruiter for the School of Engineering, and I am here to kind of give you an overview of what engineering is. And from there, I'm going to let the actual engineers jump in because I have a firm policy that I don't step on experts' toes. So I'm going to let the experts talk to you guys about it and what it is. But for now, I'm going to talk a little bit more broadly about what UNM engineering in general kind of does. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and jump on in. So again, my name is Toby. I have a BA in psychology and criminology. I'm working on a master's in business. And if you can tell me what all of these things have to do with each other, I would love to know because I would like to figure out what my future career plans are. But, it never hurts to continue pursuing that education, whether it's engineering or not. So I always encourage you guys, even if you don't know what you want to do, get a degree in anything, become educated. It never hurts to become more intelligent and smarter on any topic you're talking about. So let's talk about UNM engineering, though. Really, guys, importantly, let's start with a definition of engineering. It's just a way of questioning, thinking about, and solving challenges. Now, the fun part with that is you guys just went through the pandemic, which was an unprecedented time for everybody involved. What that means is I know you guys have a problem solving mindset because you guys solved problem after problem after problem after problem, and you guys are still here. So I know you have a problem solving mindset. And because you have a problem solving mindset, let's do something with it, right? That's an asset. So let's do something with it. Let's build on it. If you already have it, you might as well become an engineer. You might as well get some formal training in it, right? Now, the really cool thing about all of this, guys, is that everything is connected. It doesn't matter what you want to do. It doesn't matter what you want to invent. It doesn't matter what you want to study. There is a place for you within engineering. If you want to make fun, if you want to make video games and graphic designs and CGI for movies, if you want to make better stereo equipment and better sounds, if you want to make, one of my favorite ones here is, of course, the coffee pot, right? Because Lord knows I need my morning coffee. If you want to make a coffee pot that actually makes the coffee taste a little bit better. If you're into transportation, if you're into cars, if you're into computers, if you're into, it does not matter what you are interested in. There is really high paying jobs and really successful careers and really great educational programs for you to go through, and for you to have a life in. A lot of people think that the only way to contribute to medicine is to become a doctor or a nurse. That's not true. We have great biomedicine. And in fact, a great application of environmental engineering is, dirty water gets you sick, right? One of the best medical things that we have ever done historically is to make sure people have access to clean water, right? Because sure, we could treat whatever diseases come from dirty water. We can treat those E. coli's and those salmonellas and whatnot. But why even get them to begin with, right? And that's the whole idea of a vaccine as well. But, in terms of environmental engineering, sure, we could treat, lung conditions that could come from air pollution or from smoking pollution. But why even get them to begin with? If we could prevent them, that solves a lot of problems before they even start, right? And so all of this stuff is very, very, very connected. Again, no matter what you want to do, there is a lot of application for it. Now, there are some of you guys who are thinking, well, I'm bad at math, I'm bad at science, I'm bad at this, or I'm bad at that. And that's all right. Come anyways. We can teach you. That's what we do as a university, right? Our whole job is to teach you. That's exactly what we're here to do. Don't let some fear of math and science kind of hold you back. I'll be honest. I was really, really scared of calculus. And so now at the age of 29, I'm taking it for the first time. And I'll be honest, if somebody had never told me it was calculus, I wouldn't have realized that it was supposed to be this daunting, impossible task. That's not to say it's easy. I do have to put time and effort into it, but it's certainly not this impossible mountain that I thought it was going to be. And that's how it is for a lot of these things, guys. You're going to take some of these classes that you're going to be impossibly intimidated by and think you can never pass them, and then realize, oh, wow, I totally could have done this and probably done it years ago. In fact, my wife is also taking the same calculus class that I'm taking, and she also had the same feelings about calculus. And on her midterm exam, basically, she got a 98 on the test. So keep that in mind, guys, is that it's really important to sometimes just try, because you'll never know what happens. But what I want you guys to look at here, or what you guys are looking at here, are the things that we're looking for you as students. And you'll notice that there's not a GPA, there's not an ACT, there's not an SAT, there's none of that kind of stuff. Because really, I just need you to be able to do, here's a list of them, but I really need you to be able to do two things. One is be curious, and the other is be humble. And really, both of those just come down to your ability to ask questions, to come up with questions, and then to have the humility to ask questions, to admit that you don't know it, and that's okay. As an engineer, you're quite literally trying to do impossible things. That's kind of the point of it, right? When they said gravity is there, we can't go to the moon, it was a bunch of people who everybody rolled their eyes at who said, yeah, watch this. They quite literally did the impossible, right? And so with that in mind, you have to ask questions. You just have to. So don't be afraid to ask these questions. Don't feel foolish to ask these questions. The more questions you can ask, the better of an engineer you're going to be. So we do have a bunch of engineering here at UNM. I'm not going to jump into all of them, certainly not really into civil, simply because, like I said, we have some great experts coming onto it. But these are the departments of engineering that we offer here. You're going to notice that two focus on computers. One is more software, the other is more hardware, but there is a lot of overlap. You're also going to notice that there's a lot of things not listed here. That's because these are departments, not disciplines. So what that means is we do have something like automotive engineering. It's just within our mechanical engineering department, right? We do have a lot of biomedicine. Biomedicine is sort of like the Avengers. You need all six to make it happen, right? And the other thing I really want to point out to you guys is if you liked playing with Legos or if you liked doing hands-on things, you're going to love being an engineer, especially here at UNM. I want you to take some time and try to figure out what the most hands-on thing could possibly ever be, and then realize I got one better for you. because our nuclear engineers are so hands-on that they actually pull apart and put back together a nuclear reactor with their own hands. I can't really think of anything more hands-on than that. So that is true across the board. Our mechanical engineers build race cars from scratch, just top to bottom. Everything is extremely hands-on, because what's the point of being an engineer if you're not doing engineering, right? So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and wrap my position up, and I'm going to turn it over to the wonderful Sydney Donahue. Sydney.
Great, thanks, Toby. Oh, sorry, if you're speaking at Big Brothers Big Sisters, you're muted.
Now I'm not. We just have a quick question before you get started, Sydney. Is that okay?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, Toby, this might be for you. So how do you decide what kind of engineer you might want to be? There's so many choices, right?
Yeah, the same way you decide which one is your favorite cookie. You try them. That's really that simple. Now the cool thing is I will be happy to go ahead and put my contact information here in the information box or in the chat box here. And you guys can reach out to me, and I'll be happy to give you some more details on which one is a little bit more of which, and we can get you some tours and some other things set up. But really, engineering, like I said, it's like cookies. Just try them out and see which ones you like and don't like.
I love that. And I loved what you said too about just try it, right? So if you have an interest in something, pursue it, do it. Don't wait on the sidelines. But there was one other question. You're going to love this one. What kind of engineers make the most money?
So I would say that probably a nuclear medical physicist makes the most money. But all of them have the potential to make a lot of money. Every single one of them across the board has a lot of money. And I will say that's one of the benefits of engineering over science, is that engineers tend to make a lot more money than scientists do. Not that science isn't important. You'll never ever hear me say that. But I was actually just looking at it before we started. A biological engineer with a bachelor's degree, they can start at close to 90,000. Whereas a biologist with a bachelor's degree might start at close to 55,000. So that's just one really good example of the difference between an engineer in the field and a scientist in the field.
I love it. Thanks for that info. You had it right at your fingertips.
Exactly.
All right, Sydney, take it away.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen real quick. Okay. Alrighty, so my name is Sydney Donahue, and I work here at UNM in a research center called the Center for Water and the Environment. So our students are working mostly on environmental engineering. So before we get started today with an example of what environmental engineers do, I thought I'd just break down really quickly what it is. So you saw that Toby put on his slides that we have a civil engineering department here at UNM. And so civil engineering is the broader type of discipline. So civil engineering is a broad discipline dedicated to planning, design, construction, and operation of facilities necessary to meet mankind's basic needs and desires. So when you think about that, it is a super broad definition, but that could be something like building and designing roads, bridges, buildings, pipelines, transportation. So civil engineers do all sorts of things, but basically building, planning, designing what we need as a society. And if we take a look at environmental engineering, that is a subsection of civil engineering. So environmental engineers are solving those problems we have as a society but they are using the principles of engineering, biology, and chemistry to develop solutions to environmental problems. So down here, I have some pictures of our students here at UNM out in the environment trying to help solve some problems. And those problems can look like access to clean drinking water, what to do with our wastewater, how to deal with pollution, how to deal with hazardous waste, and doing environmental impact assessments before something like a building or a road goes up to make sure it's not going to hurt the environment. So let's take a look at the bachelor degree option at UNM. So if you're interested in civil engineering and or environmental engineering, you can come to UNM. And if you're out of high school, you first start with what's called your bachelor's degree. And so here at UNM, we offer bachelor's degrees in civil engineering, construction engineering, and construction management. But if you are really interested in, say, something like environmental or even water resources, then you can get an emphasis in one of those categories. So if you really want to be an environmental engineer to help solve environmental problems, then you would get a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. And then you could put an emphasis on environmental engineering. And I am also going to show you guys a video of our center. So the Center for Water and the Environment and Environmental Engineering Research Center, where our students do research that will help with environmental problems. So hopefully the sound works. Feel free to stop me and let me know if it doesn't.
Water is really a quality of life issue, and the type of research that we're doing here at UNM applies really globally. We've got people working on treatment technologies, how to remove contaminants from water. How do we take water out of the Rio Grande and make it safe to drink? Or how do we take sewage that goes down people's drain and make that safe to put back into the environment? So these really are quality of life issues that are affecting people everywhere. And we're looking at solving these problems right here at the University of New Mexico.
I wanted to be grounded and to be able to build a foundation within the community that I live in, which is in New Mexico. And I felt like I got that experience with CWE. I felt like I went to an Ivy League school and had an Ivy League experience with CWE because we have top caliber facilities, we have amazing professors, we have collaborations across the whole campus. And coming out of CWE, I felt like I was an asset to employers. I felt like I had skills to manage myself, to work independently, to think critically. So I was eager to learn, I was willing to learn, and I knew how to learn because of my research experiences.
We have an authentic commitment to engaging underrepresented minority students. When students come here, they have the ability to interact with other students that are like them. And in the center, we really try to facilitate a pipeline of graduate students and postdocs that are mentoring undergraduate students that come not only for education in conventional classes, but also giving them research experiences in the laboratory and in the field. For us in this center, it's very important that underrepresented minority students have the opportunity to engage in these activities and form part of this pipeline that we need of scientists and engineers that will be the future of this world.
All of the amazing faculty that support our students and our experiments make it known that we're important and the work that we do is important. When you support a student like myself, you inherently are uplifting the voices of their communities. Had it not been for the center, I would not have had the opportunity to do the work that matters most to me and to communities like mine.
The CREST program at the National Science Foundation is really critical to the success of the Center for Water and the Environment. Not only is it funding research, but it also set us up for success in terms of outreach and educational programs. The goal is for the center to become a worldwide center of expertise in water issues, and particularly water issues that are important in arid climates like New Mexico. I mean, when it comes right down to it, water is one of the most important resources that we have as people. And people can't live without water. Our center is working to solve problems. And in doing that, we're really affecting the quality of life for people all over the whole world.
All right, so that was a video showcasing the type of work we do here and what the type of work that environmental engineers typically do. I'd be happy to take any questions if there are any. If not, I can pass it over.
I'll actually unmute this time. How's that? So how often do environmental engineers get to work out in the field versus a lab?
That's a great question. So it depends on the type of environmental engineering that you want to do. So if you are a student here and you are an undergraduate student, so it's your first college degree, then you can sort of pick if that's something you like, or if you'd rather stay inside and work in the lab. So we have some students who really enjoy going out and taking samples or evaluating out in the field. And then we have some students who really enjoy working in the lab. And so you kind of get to choose your own path in that way.
That's awesome. And then there was another question about scholarships and whether they're readily available within the departments.
Yes, that's a great question. Toby here might have some more information on that for us.
Yeah, I'll be happy to jump in on that one. So we do have, we have great scholarships just within UNM. Of course, the lottery scholarship is unique nationally in that we're basically going to pay for your school straight up. UNM has a whole bunch of other scholarships, and the School of Engineering itself has a bunch of scholarships as well. I'm going to broaden the question just a touch from scholarships to funding, right? How do we get funding to pay for school? And one of the great ways that we can get you funding is by internships, jobs, careers, that kind of thing. And we do have a great internship program, both within the university and within our research laboratories, and with partners like, Intel, Sandia, Los Alamos, all these other places that we have around us that we are extremely fortunate to have. We kind of get a little I don't know, maybe the word is kind of spoiled, maybe just used to the idea that we have 2 national labs right next to us, but it's important to remember, guys, there's only 8 nationally. So the fact that we have 2 in our backyard is something that we should treasure and prize. And so, the opportunity to get these internships and get paid really well at them, or the Air Force Research Laboratory and get paid really well at it. Again, there's only 6 Air Force Research Laboratories and we have one. And so, even if you brought in the question from scholarships to just funding in general, not only do we have a lot of scholarships, we also just have a lot of funding opportunities.
I like that, Toby. That's great info. Okay, that's all the questions for now. Sydney, you want to carry on?
Perfect. Yeah, I will pass it over to one of our students here at the center so she can tell you a little bit about what it's like and her experiences.
Hi, my name is Trier Ward, and I'm a PhD student and research assistant here at the University of New Mexico in the Nanoscience and Microsystems Engineering program. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about my experience and my career in the engineering field. I started my academic career in 1995, and I've had about 17 years of industrial experience. So I just want to share a little bit today about where engineering can take you and some of the experiences that I have had leading up to my pursuit of a PhD here at UNM. So it started out with my interests in high school, which included a lot of STEM classes, which you probably know. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So among the classes that I focused on in high school were AP Calculus, AP Chemistry 1, and I was fortunate enough to go to a high school that offered a course in organic chemistry. I took AP Physics, AP Biology, and there was an elective in Environmental Science. But I also really enjoyed building things. I took Technical Theater, which there was a lot of carpentry and work with lighting and sound. And in the physics class I took, there were a lot of special projects like building spaghetti bridges and having contests to see which ones could hold the most weight, and having catapult wars. And I really enjoyed those kinds of projects. So that was my first inclination that engineering might be something for me. And there is also a component of creativity to engineering, I believe, that I saw in my creative writing and my expression through theater. So I don't think engineering is all just crunching numbers and science. I do believe that there is a creative component to it as well. So I got a scholarship to the University of Oklahoma, and I was very ambitious. I decided to double major in chemistry and environmental engineering. And there's a lot of crossover between science and engineering and the type of classes that you'll need to take. With chemistry, there was general chemistry 1 and 2, organic chemistry, analytical chemistry, and physical chemistry. But both of those majors required calculus 1, 2, and 3, physics for engineering and science majors 1 and 2. And then the environmental engineering major required a broad course that was Intro to Engineering, which is a course that gives you a basic guide to how to solve types of engineering problems and how to approach them. But I really bit off more than I could chew with the double major. And after taking quite a bit of the engineering curriculum, eventually I pared it down to just a chemistry major. And I still barely managed to get out of there in 5 years with the amount of biology electives that I piled in there too. Because I really did take a lot of courses, a lot of engineering courses, and a lot of biology courses in addition to my chemistry major. In addition, I was involved in a lot of campus and community organizations. There was one in particular called Our Earth, which was involved in campus recycling and climate change awareness, and an organization called Wild Care Oklahoma, which was a wildlife rehabilitation organization. So when you're a student and when you're on campus, it's not just about the courses that you're taking, it's about the organizations and the opportunities that are available on campus as well. So don't forget about those kinds of opportunities that are available. My first job in engineering came out of a career fair that the university offered. So there were job opportunities that the university provided immediately. And you'll want to take advantage of those types of opportunities that your university provides. I did not know what a process engineer was when I was recruited to be a process engineer. But process engineers are responsible for designing, implementing, and optimizing industrial processes and tweaking them so that you can get the strongest, the best, the pinkest bubble gum, whatever it is, whatever parameter you're trying to optimize. Process engineers work to optimize that parameter. And they do this across a variety of industries. Raytheon Company is a company that works as what's known as a defense contractor for the military, building components for jet airplanes, tanks. The division I worked for made components for aircraft radars, as well as components for digital televisions. I was optimizing industrial processes for what are known as digital micromirror devices. And one of those is depicted here. Inside that window that you're looking at, as you can see broken out, are thousands of tiny mirrors which tilt on swivels on and off, and those are displayed as pixels on the television screen. The process I worked on optimizing was bonding that gold window, which is actually gold plated over Covar metal, to the borosilicate glass in the window. And I would have to run thousands of tests with thousands of windows, trying to get the right oxide thickness to make that bond the strongest. If the oxide was too thin, the bond wouldn't be strong enough. If the oxide was too thick, it would delaminate completely. So thousands of tests were run to find the exact strength that would make that window the strongest. That was a contract that Raytheon had with Texas Instruments, and that was a big project that I worked on for a long time. Later, I worked for a company called Nalco in research and development on projects for natural gas wells. In natural gas wells, there is a condensate that develops in the line, which is a liquid that builds up that is a combination of water and organic liquids. Now, when the surface tension of this condensate matches the force of gravity pushing down on the liquid, the flow of natural gas stops and the well is considered stuck. Well, the product I worked on was a surfactant that was injected into the well, which lowered the surface tension and then would permit the flow. It would start bubbling, essentially. It would get soapy and it would bubble, and then the gas would be able to flow through the bubbles and the well would get unstuck. Well, you needed several different formulations depending on the salinity of the water, the amount of condensate, the temperature, and also sometimes depending on the location, like say it was in the North Sea, which is regulated by Great Britain and Norway, you would need a green formulation, which is biodegradable and very safe for the environment. So that was a very interesting job that I had, that I enjoyed very much, doing that research and development. Next, I took a totally different path. I went and got another degree, an associate's degree in viticulture and enology, which is a fancy way of saying grape growing and winemaking. This was in 2011. And that's a picture of industrial winemaking tanks. And winemaking is governed by a process known as fermentation, which is a metabolic process in which an organism converts a carbohydrate, such as a starch or sugar, into an alcohol or acid. So in the case of winemaking, yeast consume sugar and produce alcohol. And what, as an engineer, you're tweaking, or as a winemaker, is the nutritional mixture of the yeast, the amount of sugar, the amount of nitrogen, to obtain the desired flavor profile of the wine, the amount of sugar, the amount of alcohol, the different amounts of maltic and citric acid that you have in the end, to get the flavor that you want. And it's very much like chemical reactor engineering. As the fermentation process goes on, it heats up. There's different considerations. So I definitely used engineering principles in my time as a winemaker. And I did that for about 3 years. Finally, my last job before I went on to get my master's, which kind of took me in the environmental direction, which was as a project manager in an environmental laboratory called Test America. And this is where I used some of my softer skills, which was managing client relations and generating lab reports from the laboratory technicians that tested soil, water, and air, and checked for contaminants such as metals, nutrients, and organics. So no matter where you go in life, you can't leave out those soft skills, like being able to communicate, doing the technical writing, and working with people. So then I went into kind of a non-conventional program for graduate school and got a Master of Science from the University of Illinois. It was an exclusively online program. I took 6 years to complete it, which was really self-paced. But being a mother of 4, that's kind of how I needed to do it. I got a master's degree in natural resources and environmental science, and I completed what is known as a capstone project. Oh, capstone project, not capstone projected, which was based on data analysis from what's called a TMDL, which was data collected by the Texas Natural Resource Commission. And it's a little different than a thesis, because a thesis is research that is based on your own original data, which you collect. A capstone project can be based on an analysis of someone else's data. So that's essentially what I did. And I'll just take a minute or so to tell you a little bit about my capstone project. It was called Prediction of PCB Levels in Fish from Marine Creek Reservoir, based on biota sediment PCB accumulation modeling for the Trinity River watershed, Texas, USA. So let me translate a little bit. PCBs are persistent organic chemicals which were banned in the 70s, and they have a half-life on the order of 20 years, which means it takes them 20 years to decrease by half their concentration. And they tend to accumulate in the organic component of sediment and the fatty tissue of organisms. They have been determined to be carcinogenic, which means they cause cancer. The Texas Natural Resource Commission measured PCB in river sediment at 11 sites along the Trinity River and compared them to measurement in fish tissue. So what I did with this data is I created a mathematical model based on PCB and river sediment to predict the PCB in fish tissue at unknown locations, like Marine Creek Reservoir, which I selected because it was a site promoted for fishing by Texas Parks and Wildlife. And the conclusion that I came to was PCBs were predicted to be 5 to 7 times higher than the level safe for fish consumption for human health, which was obviously a big cause for concern. And I did make a report to the Texas Natural Resource Commission about my findings. So that was a really interesting project. After I finished my master's, I continued to get inspiration from different scientists. And there was one in particular that was using nanotechnology in environmental science. And I'd like to share this video with you guys. This is a scientist named Marino Murakawa, who is a Japanese Peruvian scientist. And I'm just going to go ahead and share the video that I found that inspired me. And I think I'm going to have to stop my share for a minute and share this. So let's see here. Okay, stop share. Share screen. Okay, are you guys seeing this?
Yep. Press play. You might have to share the sound. There you go. Perfect.
But first, let me tell you what the problem is. Pollution. See, lakes like this one are contaminated. And according to data, this is the case for 40% of the world's lakes and rivers. So when Marino's childhood lake also got contaminated, I had to do something about it. This scientist with a PhD degree from a Japanese university took a break from school, went to a bank, got a loan, and dedicated his time to fix my lake. He came up with a unique solution. You put this solution in dirty lake water. The solution attracts the contaminated particles and floats them to the top. And this is so environmentally friendly that you can eat it. Because it's 100% organic. So after 15 minutes, you can see the difference between a clean and polluted water. If I can clean this cup, then I can clean whole lake. So he went to his childhood lake and dropped a ton of his solution, treated it with biofilters, nanotechnology, and crazy biology, and after a few months, he was able to transform the lake from this to this. A full 180-degree transformation that created a lake clean of parasites, bacteria, and pollution. The birds came back and people did too. What is this method that you used? I used a nanotechnology, but the nanotechnology is used in the wastewater treatment, but I use in the wetland and the natural habitat. And why don't more people do this? Because it's expensive. It's very hard, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible. That's why now Marino is thinking big. He wants to clean Peru's biggest lake. This, with an entire team, PhDs in science, millions of dollars in funding, patented technology, and a noble goal of making the world cleaner for everyone.
Okay, let me get back to my presentation.
Just one quick question, Sydney, or Trier, if you don't mind. Well, first of all, I wanted to say my favorite takeaway from that was it is very hard, but not impossible. I love that. So, but I had a question from the audience, and it seems like you have such a diverse background with so many different types of work. But what's the most challenging project that you've ever worked on?
I would say when I was working at Raytheon, there was an electroplating facility that had to be retrofit because there was some acid ducts that were leaking and the ventilation over the plating baths was insufficient and had to be retrofit. So I had to learn about industrial ventilation and industrial plumbing because I was put in charge of the retrofit of that electroplating shop. So we had to completely break it down, redo the industrial plumbing and the industrial ventilation, and get the shop back up to manufacturing specs, which are military manufacturing specs, within a very short period of time. And that was a real engineering challenge because I didn't know a lot about industrial ventilation and industrial plumbing at the time, that being my first job. So that was a real challenge.
I think you were muted again.
Oh, darn it. I said that must have been a challenge because you had to completely learn something that you never thought you'd even have to learn.
Yes, but the good thing about engineering principles is you can apply them to any type of problem, even if it's not in your field. Those set of principles and the way to attack a problem can be applied to any set of solutions. So it's a method of thinking, not necessarily that you know everything.
Right.
It's sort of a way to attack problems, not a set of things that you've memorized.
I like that.
One
Okay.
thing I want to kind of add
Go ahead,
on to
Toby.
what you're saying to build onto that is That is absolutely true. I hear from the medical school recruiter all the time that they love engineers, not because necessarily they have this great medical background, but because, as a doctor or a nurse, real patients, real problems that need real solutions. And a lot of times you have to think on your feet and think creatively. And so they love when students come in having that engineering skill set. So just like she's saying, that ability to think about things, it's not that you have all the answers, it's that you have the way to get to the answer.
That was all we had for now. Go ahead.
sorry.
And that was it for now, so continue on.
Okay, sure. Marina Marikawa was talking about nanotechnology and how he used nanotechnology to save the lake. So what is nanotechnology? Well, nanotechnology is the study and use of structures between 1 nanometer and 100 nanometers in size. And this is what I'm studying for my PhD, is nanoscience. So to give you an idea of the nanoscale, you would have to stack 1 billion nanometer sized particles on top of each other to reach a height of a 1 meter high table. And the word nano is a scientific pretext that stands for 10 to the negative 9th or 1 billionth. And it comes from the Greek word nanos, meaning dwarf. And this is a slide, and I should have brought my reading glasses because the type is kind of small on it. But I think it gives you a really good idea of the nanometer scale of things. And on the left, we have things natural, and on the right, we have things man-made. So up at the top of the scale, you've got, on the left, you've got an ant, about 5 millimeters. On the right, you've got the head of a pin, 1 to 2 millimeters. And as you go down, you're getting smaller. You've got a hair, which is 60 to 120 micrometers wide. You've got blood cells, 7 to 8 micrometers. And then getting down on the natural scale of things, you get down to DNA, which is 2.5 nanometers in diameter. And over on the man-made scale, you'll see what's known as MEMS, or microelectronic mechanical devices, at the micrometer scale, or 10 to 100 micrometers wide. But you can get down much smaller than that to things we've manufactured. Carbon nanotubes are like 1.3 nanometers in diameter, or a carbon buckyball, which is 1 nanometers in diameter. So this kind of gives you an idea of the scale we're talking about when we talk about things that are on the nanometer scale, and when we're doing nanoscience and nanometer engineering. So now I've got 3 degrees under my belt. I'm pursuing my 4th, a PhD in engineering at the University of New Mexico, which has this really unique program in nanoscience and microsystems engineering. I'm working through the Center for Water and the Environment because I want to use nanoscience to clean up the environment. And my mentor and advisor is a professor in the Civil Construction and Environmental Engineering Department, Dr. Anjali Mulchandani. And my current research is for off-grid solutions for water capture from the atmosphere. And this is for solutions for situations like Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico in 2017, where 1 month after the hurricane, 88% of the island was without power. So you're talking about 3 million people, 29% of them still lack tap water, about 1 million people. 40% of the island had no cell service. So here's people, 1 million people for 1 month after the hurricane without drinking water and without the infrastructure or the power to even pump the drinking water, even if they had it. And then you've got this situation where over 70% of the earth is covered by water. Only 0.5% is available for drinking. And it is expected that over half of the global population will live in water deficient regions by 2050. So the potential solution: as a hydrologic reservoir, the atmosphere, or the air around us, contains 3.4 quadrillion gallons of water, which is approximately 14% of the freshwater volume stored in lakes and rivers combined. So atmospheric water can provide this off-grid solution because it doesn't need necessarily need electricity. You can use low-grade sources like solar power to generate it, and it can provide water resources to rural homes, mobile military outposts, or disaster relief scenarios like Hurricane Maria. So, but the trick is, how do we harvest atmospheric water? So right now, there are three approaches to atmospheric water harvesting. There's fog harvesting, but that requires 100% relative humidity. So it is geographically and climatically limiting. You've got to be somewhere where there's that 100% relative humidity. You usually have to be in a coastal region. There's also what's known as dewing or refrigeration. You can refrigerate air below its dew point, and that will condense water out of it. That's essentially, what a refrigerator does. But then there's what I'm working on, which is desiccant-based atmospheric water harvesting. And this uses solar power. Now, a desiccant is like that package that you get sometimes in the bottom of leather goods. That's the little silica package that says "do not eat." That is what a desiccant is. And water can absorb onto the surface of that desiccant. And it'll do that at night when the temperature is cool. And then during the day, when the temperature rises, the water will desorb or sort of sweat out of that desiccant, and it can be collected. So that is the traditional water harvesting cycle, with the water adsorbing onto the desiccant at night, and then the energy of the sun causes it to desorb and be collected during the day. Now, with some desiccants, you can even get multiple cycles per day and collect more water. So what I'm working on and trying to incorporate the nanotechnology into is coming up with the best desiccant, most advanced desiccant material that can absorb and desorb the most water. And the goal is to come up with 6 liters to 20 liters a day, at least, because that's the needs for human survival and sanitation. I don't have too much time to get into too many of the different types of desiccants that I've been studying, but some of them are known as metal organic frameworks, or MOFs, and some of them are known as zeolites. And they have these beautiful cage-like structures, and I'm trying to study the material properties of these different desiccants to understand what drives the water vapor absorption in these materials. Is it the porosity? Is it the pore volume? Is it the placement of the different metal cations within the structure? What causes these materials to absorb water vapor differently, particularly in arid climates like Albuquerque? So that's the current focus of my research here at UNM, and I'm really enjoying it. And I hope learning about this has piqued some of your interest in the different directions that engineering can lead you. There's a whole diversity of fields and different areas where you can solve problems and use the things that you've learned. And it's just a really fascinating field. So thanks for the opportunity to present to you. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
That was really interesting. I think what would be great for the students to take away from this is that they can see a problem in the world and they can get an education and they can work on ways to solve that problem and really impact their communities, which I think is just exciting. So we didn't have any other questions, but did any of you have any other last words of wisdom for our audience?
I can add something real quick. I think another great takeaway from this presentation is that everyone can take a different path to where they are trying to go. So as a high school student, it's okay if you don't know exactly what you want to do. You don't have to have it all figured out right now. You can kind of pick something that you like and try it out, like Toby was saying, and see where it leads you. So if you're interested in something like civil engineering, I would suggest trying it out. And if you don't like it, then you can try something else. And that's okay. And I was in that same position as well as a high school student, and as in my first few years of college, I wasn't absolutely sure. And everything turns out okay.
Toby, did you have any last words of wisdom?
Yep, there we go. I was trying to talk and I couldn't get myself to unmute for some reason. So not necessarily words of wisdom, but kind of building on the idea of, hey, just try stuff. I don't have details on it yet, simply because it's a little bit far away still. But for those of you who are interested, this summer we will be having some really awesome engineering summer camps. One is going to be a live-on experience, and the other is going to be, you know, your mom or you drive here to UNM every day, get dropped off, and go home at the end of the day, kind of thing. Both of them are free, and both of them are 2 weeks long. And so, plus, if you like me, you get to listen to some of the talks I give there. If you don't like me, then I'll pretend I didn't say that. But so that's a great way to just kind of try some different things, because there's some video game programming, there's some civil engineering stuff that they do. There's a whole bunch of just really cool stuff that they do. So come check it out, and I'll make sure I send that information to you guys, so that way you guys can see it, and especially when those details start getting finalized.
That would be great. Where should they check the UNM School of Engineering website? Where can they look for that info?
Let's see. Let me go ahead and put it in the chat box, and I meant to put my contact information in there earlier. Let's see. And for summer program information, they should come here to future students. And I hope you guys can see that in the chat box there.
Yes, thank you. Thanks.
Yep.
Great. Well, thank you for taking time out of your Friday to share with us today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Great. I'm just going to play a little thank you video, and we will call it a wrap.
Perfect. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Liftoff of the Delta rocket carrying Glast.